What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to another episode of viewer-submitted clone builds. Be sure to check out the link in the description for a playlist of all the previous episodes in this series. Last week, I asked my followers on Instagram to send me their clone builds, along with parts lists and some basic info. This time, however, I'm doing a special on the guns from movies, TV shows, and video games. The following submissions were chosen based on how closely they replicated the firearm from the source material, while also prioritizing builds that went the extra mile to copy even the smallest details. If you guys want this series to continue, then let me know by liking and commenting on the video, as well as subscribing to my channel. And if your submission didn't make it in this video, then don't sweat it because it can make it into the next one. So without further ado, let's get into this episode's submissions. This episode's first submission comes from @GundadOfficial on Instagram and YouTube, who has sent in his replica of the revolver carried by Barney Ross, played by Sylvester Stallone, in the Expendables films. He explains that Barney's revolver is a very specific, single-action army with a fanning hammer and a roller, with a 3.5-inch ported barrel chambered in .45 Colt, which is missing a front sight. This revolver also has black grips that lack any screws. Many of you will recall that Barney carried this revolver in the small of his back throughout the 4 Expendables films, and Gundad has even managed to source the Arkansas toothpick knife, as well as the Black Hawk vest worn by Stallone in order to complete this display. Our second submission comes from Ryan from North Carolina, who has sent in a very well-known rifle, the Colt 733 from the movie Heat. I actually received multiple submissions for clones of this particular rifle, but what makes this one stand out to me is the attention to detail, down to the Colt M16A2 receiver markings. These markings were achieved by starting with an 80% lower receiver, giving Ryan a blank canvas with which to start his build. Albeit a very simple clone in concept, these are such iconic rifles of the time that it's impossible not to include at least one on the list. This next submission is our first multi-gun entry of the episode, as well as our first video game guns. These clones were sent in by Nick, and are replicas of 2 guns used in Fallout New Vegas. We'll start with the rifle, which is a clone of the NCR service rifle, which features one-off markings on the lower receiver, performed by MOA Customs, which has been paired with a Colt C7 upper, a 20-inch pencil barrel, as well as furniture from Black Guns Wood. As a final added touch, the front sling loop is adorned with a bottle cap of Sunset Sarsaparilla. To complete the set, Nick has also included a clone of the 9mm pistol from the game, which is based on a Browning T-Series high power. He goes on to explain that this pistol is extremely common in Fallout New Vegas and is somewhat pushed onto lower level players due to a theme within the game depicting 9mm as an inferior cartridge, hence why your character survives being shot with one in the opening cutscene. Our fourth submission comes from friend of the channel, Joel at Otter Weapon Works. Joel has recently started his own YouTube channel, so if you want to get a closer look at these builds, or any of the builds Joel has sent in for previous episodes, then be sure to check out his channel. Link will be in the description. The first pair of clones he sent in for this episode are from John Wick, specifically the HK416 and HK-P30L used in the first film. Starting with the rifle, it should be noted that the actual prop used in the film was actually a Cowery Arms CA415, which is an American copy of the HK416 that is virtually identical in appearance. The parts list is on the screen, with notable parts including an EOTech 553 with mill markings, Troy brand 416 iron sights, and a Nefarious Arms 10.4-inch barrel. Joel's HK-P30L has been outfitted with a Jarvis threaded barrel as well as a Wicked brand compensator, giving it the same unique appearance as the movie prop. Joel didn't stop at one pair of movie guns for this submission, however. He has actually included a second pair from the movie Blood Diamond. Many of you may recognize the carbine shown below if you follow administrative results, as this exact rifle was covered in a previous upload from him. Again, link will be in the description. Long story short, this rifle was pieced together from various old-school Colt parts before being finished off with a very convincing paint job that is nearly identical to the one given to the movie prop. Notable parts include the aluminum Colt Car 15 stock, the Aimpoint Comp M with a SRW-L ring mount, as well as a modified Surefire M14 barrel mount for the flashlight. Accompanying this build is a simple but classy USP 9mm compact, which also made appearances in the film. As always, thanks for sending in your submissions, Joel. This next submission comes to us from another friend of the channel, Kieran at Tier 1 Outfitters, who has also sent in multiple sets of guns. First off is his clone of the HK USP9 Match from 2003's Underworld. The props used in the film are paired with custom chromed match weights attached to the 6-inch match length barrel, as well as HK's jet funnel magwell extension in order to fit the movie's over-the-top aesthetic for its firearms and other weapons. Kieran's next submission is a prominent firearm in the 1996 film The Rock, where it is used by multiple characters throughout the film, including Sean Connery. This particular rifle is based on an XM177, though it should be noted that the props used in the movie were actually 11.5-inch uppers with 5.5-inch flash hiders attached, rather than correctly configured CAR-15 upper receivers. On top of this, props used during the movie's filming seemingly had no continuity, as they would randomly swap between a mixture of M16A1 and A2 parts as well as C7 parts, despite being carried by the same character. In Kieran's case, he has opted for a C7 clone with a flashlight mounted on the bottom of the barrel, like some that are seen in the film. The third gun sent in by Kieran is one that many of my millennial viewers will recognize, that being the ACR from 2009's Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, sporting a spot-on fall camo paint job, which I assume appeared on the rifle after getting 250 headshots. The base gun is a Bushmaster ACR with a 10.5-inch barrel from Templar Precision, and just like in the game, only certain parts receive the camouflage pattern while others remain black. And last but certainly not least, from our friends at Tier 1 Outfitters, is a collection of Die Hard guns, namely the Steyr AUG used by Carl, the straight dust cover Beretta used by John McClane, and the factory nickel P7 M13 used by Hans Gruber, which, fun fact, was only produced for the commercial market for 1 year as a factory option from HK, which makes it all the more special. So thanks for sending in your submissions, Kieran. Our sixth submission comes from @SanchezMD82 on Instagram and is a clone of one of the rifles seen in the movie SWAT, starring Colin Farrell and Samuel L. Jackson. The parts list is on screen, with notable components including the Colt A2 profile lower receiver, Trijicon TA47 ACOG, and the Surefire M500AB flashlight handguard combo. The owner states that the correct Surefire light was the hardest part of this build to source, but he was lucky enough to find one still new in the package. The owner also states that his rifle should technically have a detachable carry handle upper, but he has not decided to replicate that detail just yet. Our seventh submission comes from @South Philly Hillbilly on Instagram and is a clone of one of the most iconic movie guns of all time, that being Arnold Schwarzenegger's rifle from the movie Predator. Although the owner states it's still a work in progress, there are some cool details that he's been able to replicate from the movie prop, including the faux M203 grenade launcher, which he created with machined aluminum and some 3D printed components. Despite owning an actual M203 made by LMT, he decided to go this route in order to stay true to the unique aesthetic of the original movie prop. Other notable components include a Colt 601 style lower receiver from Brownells with a matching 601 style upper, as well as a 20-inch pencil barrel also made by Brownells, and a rifle-length M203 handguard. Our eighth and final submission comes from @Beach Ballistics on Instagram and is possibly one of the most iconic movie pistols of all time, the Walther P99 used by James Bond. Specifically, Pierce Brosnan's Bond in Tomorrow Never Dies, where the P99 replaces the aging Walther PPK, another iconic Bond firearm. This particular P99 is a first-year production model from 1996, meaning it's correct to the era for all of the Bond films it was featured in. Along with the pistol itself, Beach Ballistics also possesses a threaded barrel and an Echo Machine K9 suppressor to replicate the P99 carried by Daniel Craig's more recent incarnation of James Bond. The suppressor seen in the film was apparently a custom-made prop, but he feels that this model from Echo Machine is the best approximation in terms of size and styling to the original that he could find. After seeing all these cool clone builds, do me a favor and tell me which one was your favorite down in the comments below. Did any of these inspire you to start a new project, or make changes to already existing builds? Let me know if you want to see more of the series, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.